Okay, I already recorded my first episode today. It's the same day, but I saw something that I feel like is a significant update regarding to the conversation with US and Iran's conflict right now. Um, so the New York Times has published that the US is considered at fault in strike on school in Iran, according to a preliminary inquiry. Uh, they stated outdated targeting data may have resulted in a mistaken missile strike, according to the ongoing military investigation, which undercuts President Trump's assertion that Iran could be to blame. So I think that this is really such a tactic out of Israel's playbook. Sorry, not sorry. But yeah, these reporters have been covering the US Israeli war against Iran. Uh, Tomahawk missile strike on an Iranian elementary school, which we all saw was like the first day, February 28th. They're stating it was a mistake. So it says the February 28th strike on the elementary school was a result of a targeting mistake by the US military, which was conducting strikes on an adjacent Iranian base, of which the school building was formerly a part of. The preliminary investigation found officers at the U.S. Central Command created a targeted coordination for strikes using outdated data provided by the Defense Intelligence Agency. So these are the preliminary findings, and there are important unanswered questions about why the outdated information has not been double checked. Striking a school full of children is sure to be recorded as one of the most devastating single military errors in recent decades. Iranian officials have said that the death toll was at least 175 people, most of them children. I know that that will be absolutely, when the US is found responsible, that number will be disputed heavily, because that's what straws we have to grasp on. While the overall finding was largely expected, the United States is the only country involved in the conflict that uses Tomahawk missiles. Okay, wonderful. Glad that we have come to that conclusion now. It has already cast a shadow on the US military operation in Iran. And I think that this also points to a larger issue of last year, right when Trump was in office. He started to replace a lot of career military officials, career commanders. I don't think that that is a proper step to take when you are looking to engage in a war that has no real just cause, or something that seems to be extremely unjustifiable by the administration at this point. I would love to see some more concrete rhetoric on why we would be doing this, so that I can at least understand a little bit more, but I'm not seeing much concrete open door rhetoric besides what the president has reported and what Pete Hegseth has come on to say, that he is extremely pro this war, as well as Lindsey Graham, but who cares about what he has to say. So President Trump attempts to sidestep the blame for the strike. President President Trump's attempts to sidestep the blame for the strike have also already complicated the inquiry, leaving officials who have reviewed the findings showing U.S. culpability expressing unease. The people interviewed for this story spoke on the condition of anonymity, citing the sensitive nature of the ongoing investigation and Mr. Trump's assertion that at one point that Iran, not the United States, was responsible. Ooh, a nice quote from Caroline Levitt that says, as the New York Times acknowledges its own reporting, the investigation is still ongoing. I love how all of these investigations are ongoing with no updates. I think that that's my favorite part of this administration is we're investigating heavily into so many different matters that they have failed to provide any update on. So it's like, what are you guys doing all day? Very curious. Asked about this article, he left the White House on Wednesday for a trip to promote his economic agenda in Ohio and Kentucky. Mr. Trump replied, I don't know about that. Perfect. I'm glad that you don't know about the military strikes going on that you have ordered. So that's perfect. People briefed on the investigation said many questions were yet to be answered around why the outdated information was used and who failed to verify the data. The school in the town of Manab, sorry if I mispronounced that, is on the same block as the buildings used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Navy, a top target of U.S. military strikes. Okay, so a visual investigation by the Times shows that the building housing the school has been fenced off from the military base between 2013 and 2016. Yeah, okay. Investigators do not yet fully understand how the outdated data was sent to the Central Command or whether the Defense Intelligence Agency had updated information. They go on to talk about military jargon is very complex and involves multiple agencies. It's very true. Very complex. Many officers would have been responsible for verifying that the data is correct, and officers at the Central Command are responsible for checking the information that they receive from the Defense Intelligence Agency or other intelligence agency. But in fast-moving situations like the opening days of a war, information is sometimes not verified. Information is not verified when you fire all of the people that have been working there and know this information to put in your own bad actors. I think that that's very apparent that there's a lot of incompetence going on in this administration, and this is why these things happen. It could have happened for a multitude of reasons. I think that coming out to say that the first instinct of Iran was to bomb their own people feels a little crazy. Not to say that they're not responsible for other crimes against their own people. They certainly are, but it's just a very interesting strategy by the president, and others involved in this war have been known to do the same thing. Yeah, okay. While Mr. Trump has made targeting Iran's Navy a top priority of the war to prevent it from interfering with global commerce, we can touch on that as well. Historically, has not been a top priority of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is focused more on Iran's missiles and other priorities like China and North Korea. So I read earlier today as well that three oil ships were hit in the strait that exists within Iran. What is that strait called? Strait of Hormuz. I'm sorry, I don't know. Please educate me on how to say this. Yeah, so yeah, I'm seeing a lot of information actually about war efforts going on here. I think the point that person was making about, or at least in the article, was that gas prices will be going up due to that. I think no one is surprised by that as well, but why is this article talking about Claude? Sorry, that's completely off topic to what we're talking about. Let me close that statement. Gas prices will be going up. Yes, due to the ongoing conflict. Okay, so now we're talking about in this article, so it goes on after it says that after I was talking about how it states that the president has made targeting Iran's navy a global top priority, but the agency's been focused more on China and North Korea. The article goes on to say officials conducting the investigation have examined whether any artificial intelligence models, data crunching programs, or other technical intelligence gathering means were to blame for the mistaken target of the school. So now it's going on to talk about Claude, created by Anthropic, does not directly create targets, works with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency's Marvin Smart System and other software to identify points of interest for military intelligence offers. Wonderful. Officers. So they're saying it likely is human error, though. Okay, then Claudia did shout out to Anthropic. So there's some pretty concrete video evidence that suggests that the United States was responsible for that. So the article goes on to say Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and other administration officials have declined to comment on the strike, other than say it's under investigation. Despite that, the president has tried at times to put the blame on Iran. Awesome. So, quote from Mr. Trump says, in my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran. Hegseth then adds, they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions. They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran. And I remember seeing a clip, actually. The article talks about this clip that a Times reporter asked Mr. Trump why he was the only official in his administration blaming Iran. And he Trump said, and I quote, because I just don't know enough about it, asserting incorrectly that Iran might also have Tomahawk missiles, but adding that he would accept the results of the inquiry as to what happened. Although most presidents might refrain from commenting on couch their statements while an investigation is underway, Mr. Trump has not hesitated to weigh in and has not fully backed down even as the evidence mounted of U.S. culpability. Okay, I like the quote that they are ending with, because it does highlight that like something like this has happened before due to human error. They're talking about directly in 1999, outdated maps portrayed craft left the CIA to provide erroneous targeting data to the military, resulting in an airstrike on the Chinese embassy in Belgrade that killed 3 Chinese citizens. I don't recall this. I'm going to look more into this, actually. The CIA wrongly assessed that the building was headquarters of the Yugoslav Arms Agency. Database maintenance is one of the basic elements of our intelligence effort, but is also one that has suffered in recent years due to our workforce being spread thin. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, this was a quote from 1999, but still rings true. The CIA director stated that in 1999. Well, that's what happens when you start firing federal employees. Military planners assumed that the intelligence agency had already verified the site and ordered the strike. Was the conclusion, I guess. Awesome. That's kind of all I wanted to talk about right now. The New York Times goes on about a lot of things going on in Iran that I simply couldn't cover. Heavy bombings in Iran. Damaged U.S. sites. Iran has reported that the U.S. Israeli assault on the country by launching drones and missiles at American targets across the Middle East. The New York Times has identified at least 17 damaged U.S. sites and other installations. Conflicting information on the duration of the war, of course. Food shortages. Okay, that's not. Yep, okay. 8 Americans have been seriously wounded, military officials say, but the bulk of the injured have already returned to duty. 7 Americans have been killed, and 140 U.S. service members have been injured overall. Yes, in the Strait of Hormuz, at least 3 ships were hit in and around the vital oil route, according to British Maritime Monitoring Group, as the Middle East war chokes off one of the key conduits of the global oil trade. All right, well, that was my afternoon update on what's going on in Iran. I thought that while not surprising, will be an interesting conversation in the next few days about taking responsibility for striking the school and really what that means in terms of people who have a perspective on this war, that it is liberating to the Iranian people, which I've seen that a few times, and I think I could talk a bit more about what that means in the broader context of history and how that sort of mindset has led to a lot of destruction and death of Americans and people across the globe. So, thanks so much for listening. I am kind of liking this, so this could be fun.